Hi guys, Mrs. King here. I'm going to read the next installment of our social studies unit, which I need you to first pull out your socials booklet. And the last story in the series that I'm going to read is Cloudwalker, this one. And I saved my favorite for last, and this is my favorite because it's actually a signed copy of Cloudwalker. Roy Henry Vickers and Lucky Bud both signed it. Pretty cool, huh? This was a gift to me from one of my students when I taught at SJD. So yeah, I want you to pull out your booklet and we are gonna go from there. I want you to pull out your map, and I'm gonna hold this map up really close to make sure that you pull out a blue, an orange, and a red, and I want you to trace those three rivers. Okay, so the blue is the Stikine River. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. The orange is the Nass River, and then of course the Skeena River is the red one, which we've learned about the Nass River and the Skeena River before too, so they were in the other books, remember? So I want you to, you can pause right now and make sure that you trace the same rivers, okay? So that's what I want you to do first. And then in your booklet, I want you to do these 3 pages. So this page, what's the story's big idea? What does it look like in your life? What animals do you recognize in the story? And then there, this book is about rivers mostly. So I want you to use this page and draw out the life cycle of a salmon. And if you don't get this information from the story, you're more than welcome to search on Google and try to find the life cycle of a salmon, because there's lots of resources out there. Yeah, and then so I want you to, it says rivers, this 3rd page, okay? It says, rivers play a vital part in all our living creatures' lives. Draw and describe the connections between rivers, salmon, grizzly bears, ravens, and trees. Because if you think, all of those things are interconnected, right? Just like food webs were. So, I'm going to start reading Cloudwalker. I'm sorry, this is my like freshly showered hair. And it's like Saturday morning, and I just wanted to come down here in my office and read to you. So, Cloudwalker. Okay. I'm gonna take off the book. Cloudwalker. Page is really, this is the first page. I'm going to hold the book like this so you can see the pictures really well. There we go. The headwaters of the rivers that are born in this story are found in the land of the Tahltan Nation in northern British Columbia. This story is dedicated to the Tahltan people, as well as the Skeena Watershed Conservative Coalition and those who work so hard to preserve our precious rivers. You see the salmon on the book? Pretty neat, huh? This picture. I'm just going to read this part, and I'm going to hold this part so you can see the picture really well. Northern British Columbia is very beautiful. There are 3 majestic rivers that flow down from the mountains, carving steep canyons and winding through the lovely flat lands all the way to the Pacific Ocean. These lands are home to many animals, plants, and people. In spring, the fields are covered in wildflowers, and animals bring their young to the rivers to feed on tender new plants and enjoy the plentiful foods of the wilderness. All life begins and ends with rivers. You see how there's like a shadow little man right there. You see that? Hard to see. And of course we have birds that are reflected in the ocean too. That's pretty. And then we have our moose going right through the picture. This is a story about 3 rivers. The people who live along all of these rivers call it Kiezin. In the ancient language, Kiezin means the juice from the clouds. Sometimes it's snow, sometimes it's rain, sometimes it's fog, mist, or sleet, but it's all the juice from the clouds, Kiezin. When Europeans arrived on the coast, they called the river Skeena. However, our people have been calling it Kiezin for thousands of years, and we call people Kiet. So the people along Kiezin are called Gixian, people of the Skeena. Long ago, in the days before there were any rivers, a young man lived among the people. It was so long ago that over the centuries, as this story was passed down, the meaning of his name was forgotten. Some storytellers call him Astas, but we call him Cloudwalker, and you'll soon find out why. The story of Cloudwalker, he was the strongest of all the men of his time. Every year the people had a contest to measure strength. Warriors had to pick up a rock in the shape of a huge ball. The boulder was big and hard to pick up. The winner of the contest was the one who walked the farthest while holding this rock. While most men could only stumble a few steps, Cloudwalker walked all the way from one side of the village to the other, and then walked back again. Strength, huh? Cloudwalker was the best hunter, especially with a bow and arrow. He also worked with a spear and a knife. Spears were made by carving a wood shaft and tying a sharp bone tip to the end. Knives were made with wood and a stone known as a flintstone, which could be worked to a very fine edge. Most of the arrowheads were also made from this special stone. When Cloudwalker was hunting in the woods, he thought like a moose and he thought like a deer. This gift and his generous name allowed him to provide food for his people. Cloudwalker was also a good fisherman. He would provide fish for the whole community. Upon returning home with his catch, he followed the custom of making sure that the elderly were always first to be fed. Cloudwalker was a great athlete, and he could swim underwater like a fish. It would surprise people to see how he could hold his breath and swim all the way along huge lakes. But there was one thing Cloudwalker could not do. He could not find a special woman to be his wife. He wanted a partner who was strong like him and who he could live with for the rest of his life. With no such woman and no family, he spent a lot of time alone, fishing, hunting, and providing for others. So pretty. You see that? Each spring, flocks of trumpeter swans stop to rest on the lakes in the north. They have a wingspan of 10 feet and are the largest of all migrating birds. An exciting idea came to Cloudwalker one day. He had a new plan to catch swans in a way no one had ever tried before. He thought to himself, I'll be able to provide for all the people. For weeks before the arrival of the swans, Cloudwalker went into the woods to prepare. He took the inner bark of the cedar tree and pounded it until it became very, very soft. Then he took the little strands of bark and kept twisting them together until they were very long. He did this until he had made a whole pile of string. Soon the day came, and this Cloudwalker watched the swans land on the lake. His plan was to dive into the water and swim underneath the swans. Then Cloudwalker was going to tie the strings around the swans' feet and pull them back to the beach. Interesting. I guess this is him diving underneath the water. You see? Oh, so pretty. Look at that. Sorry. Holding the strings between his teeth, Cloudwalker dived into the water. As planned, he swam underneath the swans and quickly tied them up. But Cloudwalker got a little greedy and tied too many together. Once the swans felt what was happening to their feet, they panicked and started to fly. The power of all the strong swans flapping their wings pulled Cloudwalker up and out of the water. Keeping together, the swans flew higher and higher, up and up and up in the sky. Cloudwalker hung on, and before long he was up at the lake looking down. Pretty soon he was scared. He thought, oh, it's too far down. I can't let go now. If you're wondering what the Lego is behind me, I'm trying to make a document camera. I'll show you that in a bit. Oh, look at this, you guys. Look. The swans flew over a rainbow and right up through the clouds. Finally, the swans got tired of carrying him. They broke formation, heading in different directions. The rope pulled this way and that. Cloudwalker had to let go. He began to fall. Down, down, down. He landed right on top of the clouds. It was soft and welcoming like a bed of feathers. Catching his breath and calming down his heart, Cloudwalker sat and wondered, well, now what? Isn't that pretty? That's my favorite page. Cloudwalker looked around. There was nothing but cloud and sky. He started to walk. Many hours passed as he wandered over the clouds. Then something in the distance caught his eye. He walked over to the spot and he found a gulenish, a waterproof cedar box that he used as a water bucket. The box was full of fresh water. It had a little hole drilled into the top with a long broken off hollow bone from the leg of a tall bird, a giant blue heron. The bones of many birds are hollow, which makes them light enough to fly. In a water box, they're used as straws. Cloudwalker was tired and thirsty from walking for so long and took a big drink of water. Thirsty as he was, Cloudwalker knew from his long hunting trips that he shouldn't drink all the water at once. He thought, I'm going to need more water later. I don't know how far it is to go back home. So he started walking again. But once in a while he would stumble, splashing a little bit of water outside of the box. Look at this picture. Okay. Do you see the swans overhead? Up in the clouds, Cloudwalker could not walk in a straight line. Now I'm going to tell you why. Most people are either right-handed or left-handed, and also right-footed or left-footed. If your right side is the one you use all the time, your right leg will be stronger than your left leg. If you try to walk in a straight line with no landmarks to keep you on track, you can't. Your stronger leg will push you harder, and over time you will walk in a big curve. It will look like a crescent moon. If you walk long and far enough, it will turn in a circle. That's what's happening to Cloudwalker. He thought he was walking in a straight line, but instead he began to walk in a circle, getting even more tired. It was hard to walk on the clouds, and every once in a while he would trip and fall down, and every time he fell, a lot of water spilled out of his box. After he fell down for the third time, Cloudwalker lifted up his head and saw way off in the distance the top of a mountain coming through the clouds. He was excited when he saw the mountaintop. He spent his whole life on the land, so he knew he could find his way back home. See him like stepping out of the clouds? Kind of neat, huh? At long last, Cloudwalker made his way to the mountain, poking through the clouds. As he walked down the mountainside, he thought he remembered the land, but some things were different. There was a big stream running down the mountain. He had to jump over it to continue his journey. There were lakes he had never seen before. Then he came to a mighty river. He thought, that's strange, I don't know this river. But he crossed the river and on he went. At last he made it home. Do you see the salmon in the river? I like how they do like the rain. See the rain? Oh, so pretty. When Cloudwalker returned, there was great celebration in the village. Everyone believed his story because where he had splashed a little water, there were new lakes. Where he had fallen down, spilling lots of water, there were 3 new rivers. If you could fly like an eagle over the North Country, you would see Yen, the juice from the clouds. You would see the Nass River, the juice from the clouds, and you would see the Skikking River, the juice from the clouds. The headwaters of those rivers are in a semicircle at 3 points where Cloudwalker fell. So if we look at this map, remember, the headwaters of those rivers are in a semicircle at 3 points. So like this, and like this. That's how those rivers were born into this world. Oops. All right. When Cloudwalker made his journey down the mountain, he was the first to see a land blessed with 3 rivers. Salmon are born in the fresh waters of these rivers. They swim down through the eddies and over sharp rocks, through steep canyons and down waterfalls to make their way into the salt waters of the Pacific Ocean. After living their lives in the ocean, the salmon make their way back to the fresh waters of the rivers. They jump over the same waterfalls that once carried them to the ocean. They scrape their way over the same rocks, and they fight their way upstream to the place where they were born. Here they lay their eggs for future generations. New life will come from their hard work. They will die where life began. After swimming thousands of miles, how do these salmon know how to get back to the exact spot where they were born? It is one of nature's precious miracles. It is the rivers that are the life force for the salmon, and it was Cloudwalker who brought us these rivers. Look at this one. Every year when the salmon come upstream, black bears and grizzly bears and spirit bears, or the white black bear, go to the rivers to feed. The bears catch fresh salmon that walk into the forest, sit down and eat. Bears are just like us. They have favorite parts of the fish that they like. Nothing is wasted because the parts they leave behind are eaten by the ravens and other small creatures that cannot catch fish themselves. And the parts of the animals that are left behind aren't wasted either. When salmon bones lie on the ground, they decompose and feed the soil. The rich soil feeds the trees. The salmon and the animals and the forests are all interconnected, and the rivers run through them. One of the last foods grizzly bears eat after they've eaten their fill of berries and salmon is marmot. They eat them just before they hibernate for the winter. The greatest gift that one can give a chief on the northwest coast is the hide of a marmot. In the old days, after Cloudwalker came back from the clouds, we didn't have money. Instead, we had beautiful, priceless things like marmot hides. The marmot were only hunted by skilled and brave hunters like Cloudwalker, and they were so rare that they were only given to chiefs. Some chiefs, when they got really old, had so many hides that they could have a marmot robe. When a chief entered a big potlatch wearing all of these robes, people understood that they were in the presence of a very wealthy chief who had been to many potlatches. The people of the northwest coast know that the richness of their culture and the wealth of the people comes from the rivers, the land, and the sea. So they teach their children to be respectful and responsible and only take what they need. They make sure the river is full of life to provide for future generations. Pretty neat, huh? So, that was our last story. So I'd like you to go back through your booklet and make sure you fill out any details that are missing. And when you're done, you could either take a photo of the last page or your favorite 3 pages and send it to me. Okay, thanks guys, bye.